say your first and last name first?
Yeah, it's Lieutenant Justin Newsom, and we're here to talk about murder number 23 from 2015. That was the murder of Christopher Whitmarsh. He was a 73-year-old male. That happened on November 18th of last year. Mr. Whitmarsh was found inside his residence at 6323 Shadow Bend. It was an obvious homicide scene, and the cause of death was ruled to be strangulation. At the time of the incident and when Mr. Whitmarsh was found, the crime scene was obviously processed. During that processing, our crime scene personnel found a bloody fingerprint on an envelope inside the apartment. Those fingerprints were entered into the automated fingerprint identification system known as APD, and at the time we received no hits, no matches on that fingerprint. Yesterday, we were notified by our fingerprint examiners of a match on that print. And that match came back to Eric Cruz, Hispanic male, 8'3" of 92. On Sunday, this past Sunday, January 31st, Mr. Cruz was arrested on a street, one street over from Shadow Bend on Everhart, for criminal trespass in a residence when he entered into another stranger's house, broke in through a window, and the resident in that apartment awoke to Mr. Cruz touching him on the leg. So Mr. Cruz was arrested for that offense that night. His fingerprints were taken. His fingerprints were obviously put into the system, and when they were, it matched back to the bloody fingerprint found at Mr. Whitmarsh's house. So based on those print comparisons and some other evidence that we found, we charged Mr. Cruz with murder last night. He was arrested this morning by the Lone Star Fugitive Task Force and is now in the Travis County Jail on that murder charge. Any questions?
Do you consider this a slam dunk case, or are you still collecting more evidence?
We're still collecting more evidence at the time. There's still some, now that we know who it is, we can do a search warrant for his DNA to compare to the blood that we found inside the apartment and compare to some other evidence that we're not talking about yet. So there's still more to do, but it's a very solid case.
Do you believe he's connected to any other cases of home burglaries, sexual assault cases in that area?
None that we've found yet, but we're obviously looking over that right now. It's also new that we haven't had a chance to finalize that yet.
Well, what do you think the motive is here? I mean, in the affidavit says that there was stuff that looks like it was missing.
Right, and so we, that's our next step, is to try to put those pieces together. It's real hard to tell a motive, but what we're doing now is trying to seek further evidence to match up with what we already know.
And he had a charge from 2009, I believe, for like family violence. Wouldn't his fingerprints already be in the system from that arrest? He spent time in jail.
I'm unaware of that. So.
Any idea why these homes, any connection to either individuals?
No, other than he lived close by. I don't remember his exact address right now, but he lived in the neighborhood, so it wasn't a far stretch for him.
Is he going to be charged for the most recent incident?
Yes, he was charged for that. He was arrested that night on the recent incident, and that's how we got the fingerprints.
And what are the charges?
He was charged with criminal trespass in a residence.
Was he armed at the time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do we know if they had a relationship, if he knew Mr. Whitmarsh?
We don't know that. The suspect invoked his Fifth Amendment right today and chose not to speak to us, so we're unaware of that.
There's lots of blood mentioned in the affidavit. Was it Mr. Whitmarsh's blood, or did the suspect cut himself when he went
It's
in?
a combination. In the affidavit, you'll see that there was a broken window and blood near that window and on the wall, and blood in various points throughout the apartment. So, and then obviously the blood from the suspect on the envelope, which led to the fingerprint.
So whenever y'all found that fingerprint, you ran it through the APD system immediately. Correct. I understand, I know there's a backlog, but with these situations when they're like violent crimes, y'all put that top of the list, right?
Immediately, that one was ran and there was no print match.
So when it comes to your investigation, I mean, how crucial was that incident on Sunday when it comes to figuring out what happened?
At this point, extremely crucial. We think, and we're confident that we would have solved the crime anyway, because there were still some leads we're following up on. We've never stopped ever since November 18th. But that was a huge break and very critical to the arrest.
One more question.
I have the question of the bond. It seems like it was pretty low for such a gruesome, violent crime. Do you know why they would let,
I won't comment whether it was low or not based on my opinion. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thanks.